I'm Colleen Phelps from WUOL Classical Louisville here with Time for Three and composer Kevin Putz, all featuring their latest album. Nick Kendall is a violinist in the group. Hi, Nick.
Hey, how are you?
Nick, y'all are starting with your own take on some music by JS Bach. The Chaconne is one of those really lofty pieces that people tend to hold very preciously. I know Johannes Brahms said it would have driven him out of his mind if he could have conceived it, but it's been adapted many times. Can you talk about taking something that's held so preciously and putting your own fun celebration twist on it?
I love the way you put it. And that's really what it is. I think you're absolutely right that, most of Bach's music is something is just kind of like the Holy Grail. You don't want to do anything to it. And the thought of suggesting that we could do something better is totally not the intention behind this new version. It's not a new version. It's our take on it. It's in the spirit of Time for Three. From the very beginnings, we were always trying, from high school all the way through Curtis and Juilliard, we were always trying to connect what we love, the experience of what happens in a concert hall, the music of the composers of the past, telling our friends who normally don't go to classical music concerts how amazing it is, how much heart, how many moments of just true connection there are. And I think through the spirit of that, and there's a whole new generation of musicians coming from that very niche craft, we call it classical music, who are doing this now. And what we wanted to do, I think, through our energy, through our way of communicating during our live shows, was to embed this genius, this profound spiritual work, the Chaconne, and sort of color in around it with our spirit. And this arrangement, of which we're going to just play the excerpt of, was actually created for us, with us, by a classmate of ours from Curtis, Steve Hackman, who's also in this innovative space. We all feel like we come from this tradition, but we're all on the outer perimeter of the art form, leaping forward and experimenting. And yeah, it's I love the way you said it. It's really to celebrate this music in our own way.
All right, so here's Time for Three with their Bach Party, Chaconne in Winter. Time for Three, music from their self-titled album, Time for Three, Chacon in Winter Celebration Update, music by Bach. Kevin Putz has joined us here in the studio. Kevin, thanks for being here.
Great to be here.
For the new album, you've got a concerto with these guys and the Philadelphia Orchestra, and you wrote that Contact was born out of seeking hope from a tough few years. Can you talk about sort of pulling music out of tough times?
You know, I think music is a lot of things, and I love and I'm interested in a lot of music, a broad spectrum of styles and vocabularies. But for me, I think my most kind of cherished musical experiences are ones that they elicit hope, joy, a sense of like sort of almost like a sanctuary, from the difficulties that and the horrors, frankly, that we're living through as a country at the moment. And so there are times when I think, maybe I should write a piece it's tragic and it's dark. And most of the time I don't, that's not ultimately what I want to do. I want to make a space. I guess it's, I suppose I'm trying to create an experience as I think this amazing trio does as well, that they want to create an environment in the concert hall where people can have an experience, that's one of communion and community. And I think even if I don't realize it, I'm thinking about those things when I'm writing music. I'm kind of imagining the possibility of those experiences for everybody in the hall, because those are the best experiences I have as a listener and as a musician.
Well, playing folk music together is certainly a great expression of community, and that's what you're about to do, right?
Yes, we would love to play it's sort of our own version of the last movement of this new concerto I wrote for Time for Three called Contact. It's based on a Bulgarian traditional tune called Gankino Horo, which I heard at my son, who's now 12, and I think at the time he was 9, at this cello recital where his teacher, Nicole Johnson, had about 15 young cellists playing this very challenging but really infectious, beautiful tune in unison. And so I based the last movement of our concerto on this tune, which we're going to play an arrangement of.
A look at Letters to the Future with Time for Three and composer Kevin Putz. Time for three with composer Kevin Putz, performing from a new concerto, part of a new album, Contact, from the album Letters for the Future. Bassist Renan Meyer. I have a question about tailoring, because Jennifer Higdon describes the process of writing a concerto for someone like tailoring a piece of clothing. So can you talk about the ways that she tailored the concerto for three for y'all?
Nice.
Absolutely. I think, one of the, by the way, that was a fast tempo, man.
I
Loved
love
it.
that. That was fun.
Lots of energy. It felt good.
Woo-hoo!
I think, there's a lot of, when I think of time for three, I just think of the word spontaneity comes to mind. There's a lot of flexibility. And even though we come from this rich tradition, of classical music, and that's our language that we've met on common ground, there's a sense of looseness, in the same way, maybe, the complex language of jazz is spoken, where it's like, it progresses, right? It doesn't stay in one place. It's like always moving. So, with time for three and the collaborations that we have, it's very similar, with our collaboration with Jennifer. I think, although it was maybe even a daunting challenge, she expressed it as like she wasn't even so sure about it at the beginning, because, what's it going to be like, the instrumentation, the type of music that we play, sort of the canon of what is classical music and time for three and how it all meets up and intersects. What is that actually going to be defined as when it comes to sound, And I think all in terms, that word of spontaneity and flexibility, those types of words, is what really brought it all together. So I think it's just like, letting go a little bit, the imagination, the process where you can, you have enough confidence where you're going to bring, your type of emotions and your feelings and your storytelling to the table, but also, who knows what's going to happen. Literally the whole piece may start out with like some perpendicular noise where the hair of the bow, intersects on the violin, and it sounds like an eraser at the beginning, and then it goes into this, whole journey. So I think, and then meeting up with Kevin, it was a very similar process where, we were both, I think, inspired and intimidated to meet each other and to hear each other's music and to sort of reflect together as collaborators, because we admired each other, which was great. Okay, great. You get through that. Good. You throw it in the trash. Now you're just kids that love music with this approach, with a heart. And you want to do something special together, just because it's fun and it's a lot of joy. So it becomes less specific and sort of organized. And then we start on common ground with that, right? And we find our way back to the discipline, but it all is through this just freedom with each other and joy.
Then we're going to hear a piece of Concerto 4-3. Which part are we going to hear?
So, this next piece that we're going to play for y'all is in between the first and the second movement, and it's called a cadenza, right? But I think it was really an opportunity for time for three to take the themes that Jennifer composed in the first movement and the themes that she's going to hear in the second movement. And with this kind of like sitting around the campfire attitude, come up with a character that made it work.
All right, here's time for three. The cadenza from Concerto 4-3, music by Jennifer Higdon. cadenza from Concerto 4/3, performed by Time for 3. A look at their album Letters for the Future. The strings and the voices all belonging to the group. Charles Yang is a violinist in the group. Charles, it feels like every project I read about from Time for 3 starts the same way. The genesis is, well, we were friends, or I ran into them in the hallway, or we came across each other in school, or it all starts with the friendships and relationships that you built in your time in school. And there's a whole group of 17 and 18-year-olds who have signed the papers and are headed to the conservatory this fall. And what is your advice for them for making the most of their time to set up these kinds of friendly and enjoyable experiences?
That's most certainly the case with Nick and Renan. They met at the Curtis Institute. I actually went to the Juilliard School 10 years later, but it is a small world, you know, and what makes us work, what makes us still enjoy what we do is that we're passionate about what we do. We're stemmed in classical music, but we have this common ground of exploring, being curious as musicians. And even though we didn't meet, all three of us at school, we met each other through just a universe of curious musicians, you know. And that's, I would say, going into the school, just sticking to your guns. If you're passionate about something, you know, learn it really well, stay curious, and just keep learning, keep listening to other people, and just you know, adding those crayons into your full crayon collection.
Beautiful.
This is
word.
kindergarten we're talking about, right?
Nice.
Beautiful words that are a nice word to the future for the album Letters for the Future. Time for 3. Kevin Putz, thank you so much for
Thank
performing
you,
for us
Colleen.
today.
Pleasure.